Hi, in this video we are going to go through a quick whistle tour about the speaking exam for the GCSE AQA Higher and Foundation actually. So in order for you to understand my top tips in order to prepare for the speaking exam effectively, what you need to understand first of all is structure. So in terms of structure, you've got in the first part 12 minutes of preparation. During that preparation time, you're given a role play which looks like this, for example, where you're giving some information and also some questions, and then we'll go over in details later on. And you also get a photo card with some information at the top and some questions, usually, well, in fact, always three, um, that you've got to prepare in the time that you have. So you have to remember that you cannot use any resources, that you've got 12 minutes to prepare, and you need to prepare one role play and one photo card. Those are the key informations. Once you have finished your preparation time, you need to tackle the role play. So, as we say in the role play, you have some information that is always the same at the top, and it gives you usually a tip of whether you need to use the to or the vous form. As you can see in my role play that we have got here, it says here, you say your teacher or your partner will play the part of your French friend and you will speak first. That's very important. You should address your friend as tu. Okay, in some cases it will be as vous, so you have to be careful with that. Okay, then you've got the general question here at the top, uh, and then those are the bullet points that you need to answer. Okay, in regards to this, you have to remember that this is the general statement, what you have to do. So you speak with your friends about leisure uh, or French friend. And in the first question you're going to be asked, going to have to answer about your activities at the weekend. Two pieces of information, two details. Okay, remember, this is not the question itself, it's what you need to answer about. Okay, whenever you got the question mark, it means you need to ask a question about television. So your question about television could be, what do you like to watch on TV? Qu'est-ce que tu aimes regarder la télé? Or for the next one, opinion about television, then you need to give your opinion about television in general. Tes programmes préférés, your favorite programs. And the question you're going to be asked is not is going to be about what are your favorite programs. It could be one of the questions, but you've got to be careful that the information you've got here is not the question, it's what you need to answer. Sometimes students get bogged down with that. Also, what seems important and something that happens often in the role play is that students want to get through all of those things at once. Remember, your teacher asks the question, you give the answer about your activities, then you ask your questions, then the teacher answers, then teachers ask you another questions, it gives you an opinion about TV, you give your opinion about TV, then uh, the teacher asks you another question and you give your answer about your favorite programs, and then at last you will have to respond to an extra question. Okay, so that is essentially how it works. So that's very important that you understand this, because sometimes students forget stuff about that. Okay, remember, you have to speak 5 times and you get 2 points per turn every time you speak, and then you get a 5 marks overall about your performance. And you always got 3 bullet points that are normal, if you wish, that gives you what you need to speak about. You've got 1 bullet point that is unknown, which is the exclamation mark, and the question mark is the one that you need to ask a question. So you definitely need to know how to ask a question before the examination. Concerning part two is the photo card. So you can make notes in your preparation time, and you have to remember also that for the photo card, my top tip there is that the first question is that you always know what the first question is, since the first question is always what is on the picture. Okay, so that will never change. The next 2 questions are usually about a different aspect of the topic, so you've got to remember that there you've got to answer that question. Okay, here the second bullet point here is not a question, but it says, talk to me about the last party you have celebrated, or the last event you celebrated, festivity. Okay, so you've got 3 bullet points, so you always know that you've got to describe the picture, answer the question 2, question 3, but also you have to remember there's 2 more bullet points on the teacher's card that you haven't seen. And those are the 2 questions that you are able to answer before you move on to the next part. Okay, I think that covers the key aspects. Then we move on to part 3. In part 3, you've got all those things going on. So you've got part 1, and the first part of the conversation should be on the candidate nominative theme, which is the theme you've chosen. In some books, it's represented by the different colors. Okay, so watch out, theme is not a subtopic. There are some subtopics in there. The second part of the remaining is on another theme, and remember that in total you've got 5 to 7 minutes, or a foundation 3 to 5 minutes. What students tend to forget is that they must ask a question. Okay, sorry, it's there. It is a requirement that you ask one question at least. So you have to make sure that you ask a question, even if it's a yes/no type question. Do you like mushrooms? Do you eat pizza? Or it could even be things like qu'est-ce que tu as fait le week-end dernier? Est-ce que tu aimes la pizza? Ou est-ce que tu adores les champignons? Obviously, the question's got to be relevant to what you're talking about. Clearly, in my example, it was about food, but I will ask you, or your teacher will ask you a question if you don't ask, and in which case, they will probably ask you, est-ce que tu as une question pour moi? Or est-ce que tu as une question à me poser? Okay, so this is part 3. There is a lot more points for part 3, and a couple of my top tips for tackling part 1, 2, and 3 is to do this. So make sure you know how to ask a question. You'll have to ask a question in your role play, and you'll have to ask a question about the photo cards. The conversation. In the photo card, you have to know how to answer questions, and if you know how to make a question, you should be able to understand the question as well. So that is, if you revise number 1, it's double whammy. Then we have know the format of the examination, e.g., what I've just been through there, part 1, 2, and 3. Read this website carefully if you're not sure about that, and then hopefully that makes total sense. Practice all the sections before examination. I always say to my students, you need to make sure that you revise, and revising is not just reviewing, it's trying to go through the process. So you must try to do a role play at home, or the ones that I've just shown you there. Take 12 minutes to prepare them, and the photo cards. Also prepare your conversation topic and know which one you're going to choose. Often students ask, which topic should I choose for my conversation topic? I'm not completely sure about this. In fact, some teachers have got some different views on that. I would say just anyway, regarding what you're going to do, the role play, the photo card, and the conversations are all going to be on different themes. So whichever theme you pick for the conversation is going to come up somewhere else. The other ones are going to come up. So you've got to make sure that you revise all the themes. You cannot decide not to revise one theme. Finally, you need to practice all the sections of the examination with a partner or alone. But with a partner is much better because they can ask you some typical questions and you can see if you can answer those. If you don't understand those questions, then they're going to be an issue. So revising questions that you could be asked is important, and actually you've got a bunch of questions there about theme 1, 2, and 3. I think that covers pretty much all ground in terms of how you can prepare for the speaking exam. But remember, you revise speaking by speaking. So if you just spend your time reading your book, you're not going to revise for the speaking exam. Okay? Don't rush, and remember also that what's important is that in the speaking, you can correct yourself. If you say something wrong, start again, correct yourself. If you are able to correct your mistakes, it means that you will not get penalized for it because clearly it shows that you've understood that what you've done wrong. Okay? If you don't understand something, ask the question. Pouvez-vous répéter la question? Sometimes the examiner can, sometimes they can't, but you can still ask. And obviously don't use English words. And if you don't know a word in English, just try to find another way that you can say the same thing. So if you don't know the word for bird in French, you could think about saying, "Oh, the animal that flies," or maybe you know duck, or maybe you know hen or chicken, and that may be helpful. Okay, not always, unfortunately. So it's all about solving this. What students also tend to forget is that often you've got a lot to think about during the speaking exam. So the more you prepare in advance, the less you have to think about during the exam. And do revise through going through the process. Do some role plays, photo workouts, conversations. And what I often ask my students is to complete a booklet where they prepare those type of questions in advance. You've got no guarantee that those questions are going to come up, but at least if they do, then you know what to say. And you know you're going to have theme 1, 2, and 3 anyway. So perhaps it's a good idea to have a bank of questions you're already working on. Okay, so if you got any questions and you think that is useful tips, then write your questions in the comment section below, or ask them if you got any questions. It's an open forum here, so leave them here. You might be helping someone else if you ask a question. Bye. Good luck with your speaking exam.